I'm here with Mike Ward from Armalytix. Say hello, Mike.
Hello.
Hello, Mike. And today we're going to be looking at how you can use Mike software to get your clients' bank statements far, far easier than you currently are. Let's get started. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Mike. As I have always said, these conversations are so much better if you ask questions. So if you've got any questions, pop them in the Q&A box. You'll find that to the right-hand side of the raised hand feature on your Zoom screen. I always say as well that we like stupid questions because stupid questions are easy to answer. So if you feel that you've got a stupid question, please feel free to pop that in the Q&A box and obviously pop it in the chat box. Or if you've got any comments or observations, then feel free to pop those in the chat box as well. So without further ado, I am going to get out of Mike's way so Mike can share with you how Armalytix works and how you can ultimately get your customers' bank statement data far more efficiently than what you are doing at the moment. So with a virtual round of applause, Mike, it's over to you.
Thank you, Simon. Right, I'm just going to share a screen if that's okay. Just get myself organized here. So hopefully people can see my presentation here.
Yeah, I can see it, Mike.
Thanks, Simon. So firstly, I'd just like to thank actually all the Accountant Mastermind members who suggested I get hold of you, Simon, and get it in front of you. So I appreciate that, to VJ and Craig and Alison, who suggested I get hold of you. With Armalytix, what I want to talk to you today about is how much time you spend dealing with bank statements and how you can get that time back. It's a laborious process. And one of the questions we asked is, do you need bank statements? And I think we've spoken to a number of accountants. There's various reasons why you might need a bank statement, but some accountants don't. So I don't want to say this is for everyone. I think my point here is to say, there are circumstances when you need bank statements, and the ones we tend to come across with are maybe when you first onboard a client and you need some data about what's going on. Maybe they haven't been on accounting software in the past. You want to look back on what they've been up to in terms of their financial affairs. It may be bank reconciliation. So it may be you're reconciling versus accounting software. So you may have times where it's out. And that could be because the client's deleted a transaction. It could be actually the bank feed has duped or dropped a transaction. I think anyone who lived with Lloyds in the last couple of months may have found that they found the bank feed has been wrong. You'll also find that some accounts, either you don't want them or they don't want to be, or they're too small or the wrong client to go on accounting software, in which case you may well need bank statements to do your compliance work. And then finally, it may be just ad hoc reasons. There may be just something you need where you need a bank statement. So I guess I'm going to just show you what I believe is the current process and the sort of things which you go through. Typically if you need a bank statement, you'll make a request out, probably email, maybe a phone call. Client probably doesn't do it initially, so you have to chase them. And then the client sends the wrong information. So, might send the wrong months, might miss a month, might send some of the accounts, but not all the accounts you need. So you go back and chase the client. The client then goes and tries to get it all together. And then maybe once you've got it back, you'll use some great tools like, Receipt Bank /Dext or auto entry or something like that, which takes maybe those PDFs or even at worst, the paper statements, scan them in, and you finally get it something back in a CSV and spreadsheet, which you can get going with the task. And then just if you look at it from the client's perspective, it's pretty awful. I have an accountant, of course, and when he asks me for statements, it's a bit of a pain, if I'm honest. So you get the request in, and then basically I'm out, maybe I'm here, and then I have to go and access my bank. Being a banker myself, I know for the past 25 years, I know how hard we make it to go and retrieve the statement. So you log on, you try and find out how to get a statement. Maybe you download a PDF, maybe you download a CSV. And then you've got more bank accounts. In the last 15 years, the average number of bank accounts per person has gone from 1.7 to 2.5, and that was in 2018. It's probably nearer 3 now per person. So then you've got to do that, add your banks, etc., and then maybe get it wrong, and then eventually get the right information. So if you look at this process, it's not a great process for either the accountant or necessarily their clients. You can train your clients up a bit, but the reality is it's not easy, it's not digital, and it's a slow process for all. So what does Armalytix do? Our mission is to try and create a world where you never have to think about getting bank statements again. So we let Armalytix take the strain. So we replace the process of getting your bank statements, and with a much more digital journey. We allow you to get CSVs of exactly the data you need. So not only will the data come back in a normalized format so that any bank you connect will look always the same as a CSV, but also you get exactly the dates you need. So you don't have that sort of situation where missing months or missing accounts. And then secondly, you make it easy for your clients. So we've had great feedback from firms who have clients who are on the go. So if you've got tradesmen or something, you can do this reports from either your computer or your mobile. So if you're up a ladder, on a roof, down a hole, whatever, on a train, you can produce these reports in a very simple journey from your mobile, which gets time back in the day for both the accountant and for your client. And so that overall process, we think, is much better than what we've got today when you have to ask for a bank statement where it takes hours of both your time and your client's time. So what I was going to do here, Simon, was just give a demo of the system as how you can produce it. So if I can just switch over to my browser, if I can just give me one moment, small technical hitch here. So can you see something that says Armalytix in the top left-hand side?
I can, Mike. Yeah, and I've just got a question in from Donna. I know you're talking about bank statements and bank accounts at the moment, but does it work for credit card statements and credit card companies as well?
Yes, it does. Now, what I would say is the amount of data we get back it can vary between credit card provider, and also we provide running balance for banks. For the credit cards, we produce it for some, but not all. It depends what we get back from the banks. And then anyone who's looked at a credit card statement in detail, they are quite complicated to get a balance out of. It seems easy, but it sometimes isn't. But yes, we do credit cards and we do PayPal as well. PayPal doesn't have a running balance because it conceptually doesn't exist on a PayPal, but you have the transactions and the debits and credits.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for that question, Donna. Thank you.
So what we see here is what I've done is I've got logged into the admin panel you would get as an accountant if you're a client of Armalytix. And what you can see here is this is where you would see your reports you've sent out and also create new reports from. It's very simple. There's no software download. It's cloud-based. So all to get access you need is just a login and an ability to create a password. And then once you're in, you get a screen like this. There's online help if you need it, down on the bottom left. And what I was going to show you was a journey of how you go and create a request for the bank statements. So if you can see up on the left-hand side, there's a button called Create Report. If you create a report, you just need some very basic information about your client. So we're going to do a request for me, I think, and for my business. So we need your name, the email address, and the business name if you're doing it for a business. So I presume for quite a lot of firms, they'll be doing it for businesses, but it does work on personal accounts too. And then you can add a client reference as needed, and then you can choose the report type you want. So we do provide a number of different report types for different professional services firms. Now we're going to focus on the last one, which is transaction download, but I'm just going to briefly touch on the others because accountants may have use for it in certain circumstances. So the first one is account verification. Account verification, if you're handling client money under the financial crime rules, you need to make sure that the bank accounts you are dealing with belong to the client you've onboarded. And so with this process, we return the name, sort code, and account number, which is verified and valid, and also belongs to the client you're doing business with. We do proof of funds, just proving you've got a certain amount of money in your account. We do source of funds, which is a very topical subject, particularly in the legal space. So when you're handling client money, you need to ask yourself, does the money come from a legitimate source? and does the activity going on the account align to what I know about the client? But I'm not going to dwell on those. Instead, I'm going to focus on transaction download, which is the digital bank statement, which you can make requests out to clients. So with our tool, you can choose the time range you want, and this sends a report request out. So let's go, for example, and say, I don't know, Simon, you're producing my annual return, and let's say my financial year is, I don't know, I don't know, 1st of April, let's say 2020 to 31st of March. Then all I do is I select the dates I want included in that statement, and I'll go about creating a report. So with this, I create a report by pressing the left-hand button. And then what you can see is there's a summary. So you've got a report request going to CHT Properties and emailing to Michael Ward. With the report type is a transaction download, and we're looking for 1 year's worth of data going from the 1st of April to the 31st of March. Now, these dates are completely customizable, so you can do whatever dates you wish. And you've got two choices. You can either email it out from your own email system by pressing this button, or you can send an automated mail. So with the automated mail, that will come via our email server, but it will come in your company's name. So I think you might be familiar with these sort of systems with Receipt Bank /Dext. So the email will come from your accountancy brand, and the client can click on that link from there. So if I just do the automated mail, what we will also do is remind the client of that if they haven't done the report, remind them 3, 5, and 10 days later. So what you can either turn those on or off. Let's do the reminders for this example. And then you would press send on this, and then your work is done in terms of making the request. So as you can see, the email's gone out and we've set reminders, if you can see those 2 green ticks. So now what I'm going to do is just show you the journey from what the client would see from their mobile phone. So I'm just going to quickly switch over to the phone.
Just before you do that, Mike, I've got a question from Steve.
Yeah.
Do you have to set up one of those requests for each bank account, or is it per client, for want of a better phrase? So if a client's got 2 bank accounts, do you need to set up a request for 2 bank accounts?
That's a really good question. So the answer is it's per client, so they can connect as many accounts in that one request as they want from as many banks as they have.
All in the same request, yeah, blimey.
All in the same request. So it doesn't need, you don't need to send 5 out. I think our record is, don't ask me why, I think it was 10 banks with 26 accounts in one report.
Brilliant, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that question, Steve.
Really good question. Let me just go in, and hopefully you can see a representation of my inbox. So you should see, we have a demo account we've set up called decimal point accounting. And we've set the reminders to go quickly on this one just to show they go out. But in the live system, you would be 3, 5, and 10 days. So let's, so if I'm your client, they can do this journey for either their computer or their mobile phone. It doesn't matter. The only thing I would say is from the mobile phone, the ability of, and I know the Mastermind members will be familiar with open banking. It's just that the kind of way of connecting the accounts is much quicker from your mobile, but you can do it from either. So we'll just click on the mail. So from here, you'll see that the mail has come from your brand. So whatever the accounting firm name is. And we've asked for a transaction download for CHT Properties. So very simply, they click Get Started. And it's important to point out on here, there's no software needed from your clients. They don't need to download apps. They don't need to do anything like that. All they've got to do is click on the Get Started. So at this point, they'll land on a landing screen, which will include your logo and brand. And then there's also the opportunity for you to write a message. Now, in this one, we've said we're processing your VAT return, but you can put whatever message you want on that. And then there's also a chance to watch a video. Now, for the purposes of time, I won't show the whole thing, but I'll just briefly show you what the video is. And we know that many clients won't have gone through these sort of journeys before. And so in this video, what we're aiming to do is to explain to them that we can't do anything to their accounts. All we're doing is reading the data, and they're permissioning us to, and we don't receive logins or anything like that. So I'll just briefly show you some of that.
Welcome to Armalytix. Armalytix will help you to quickly and securely create a financial information report directly from your bank account. We'll tell you what data we need for your report, and if you're happy, we'll connect securely to your bank to get it. We won't do anything without your permission.
So for the purpose of the time, I won't show you the whole video, but it lasts another 30 seconds. And then you would just press get started. So rather like online shopping, you'll just create a password here. I actually won't create a password. I'm an existing user. So I'm just going to log in here as an existing user. So from here, you'll see you've got a report screen, and this is explaining what they were being asked for. So you've got bank statements from the 1st of April. So this journey is going to return you a year's worth of bank statements from as many accounts as they choose to connect. So we'll just press continue. And then from here, we'll choose a bank. Now, I believe, Simon, that probably a lot of your people will be very familiar with open banking. Is that right?
Yeah, very much so, Mark, yeah.
So this probably won't be unknown to them, the journey I'm about to go on. It's just how we permission the data is somewhat different, maybe from a bank feed. But my accounts are with Barclays, so I'm just going to connect Barclays. I'm just going to have to keep quiet for a second while it Face IDs me. So what we're doing is we're detecting whether there's a bank app at the moment. And as you can see, it's logging me into the open banking screen. Now I'm connecting my business accounts. So I will just permission these accounts. And at no point do we get the client's logins. So here now, what we're doing is pulling the year's worth of data back. This might take a few seconds. And what we'll do is we'll represent to them back in a minute the statement. But they've got another option first, which is if they have other banks, I can connect another. So if I have multiple accounts with multiple banks, I can just build my report from there. Oops, if I can actually select. And we'll go through the same journey again. And what this is doing is, once again, just checking if I've got a bank app. If it hasn't, then it will just open up your online banking, even from the mobile phone, and you can get in that way. Sorry about this. Just Face IDing me again. So what we're doing is drawing back the data from the accounts I've connected. So as you can see, I'll have a year's worth of bank statements on 3 accounts. So I'm just going to go and create the bank statement now. So I'll press continue and I'll create the report. So what we're doing now is, I don't know how many pages this will be, but we'll have a sort of probably 50, 60 page bank statement. We're just pulling that together so that your client can see it first before agreeing to share it. So what we do is provide a summary, and then if they wish to see the whole 96 pages of the bank statement, it's here. Now we'll go into that in a moment, the detail. I will just share the report. And this goes securely back through a secure channel to you, the accountant. So your client is now done. So what they've done in that few minutes is return a year's worth of bank statements on 3 different accounts. So now what will happen is you'll receive an email as the accountant saying that someone's completed their report. And then you can have a link to connect back into your admin panel to see the report.
So, Mike, just before you go on to that bit, I've got the same question, just a couple of different ways from Ednan and Fahad. Is there any limit on the duration of statements that you can go back? So, is it a 12-month limit, a 3-year limit, a 6-year limit? What is there a limit?
It's a really good question. At the moment, we're limiting it at 2 years, and we're hoping to extend that out further. It just depends on the integrity of the data we're getting back from the banks. Some are excellent, and I can go back 7 years. Some are less good. So we've limited it for the moment to 2 years, and we'll keep you updated if we can go further back.
Excellent, thank you.
So with this, then you've got a report, and you will be seeing it on your admin panel. So Michael John Dayton Ward, CHT Properties. The report type of request was a transaction download, and it's now available. So you'll have it in various states depending on whether they've clicked on the link or not. Once they've actually shared the report, will be called available. There is a chance clients can say, actually, I've done it and I don't want to share it with you. We have to, and we will give them that option. However, we've had it very seldom that clients say, oh, I'll get all the way through to producing the statement, then don't share. And then probably the most interesting thing for the group would be how you get it back. So as you can see, you've got two different download types. You've got a PDF, which I'll just click on now, which, to be honest, most firms you speak to are sort of there, but it, you've got a bank statement if you need it. As you can see here, and you've got the however many pages, or we go back and we can have a look at the CSV, which I will just do now. This moment. So as you can see, I guess the important thing with the CSV is that the CSV will always come back in the same format, regardless of what banks you connect. So in this case, we've got the name of the account, whether it's a business, its current account, the sort code, account number, the description of the transaction. We have two booking dates, one which gives it by the second, almost up to the second, and then later on we have the booking date, which is just the day. We have the currency, the amount, and whether that's a debit or a credit. And then I think a lot of people have been asking, do we do running balances? And the answer is yes, for the banks and for some of the credit cards. So you've got a running balance over that period, if you can see. And at that point, I've also got the booking date. I just haven't widened the column. This can then be uploaded to any accounting software you may have. Was there any questions on the CSV?
Not at the moment, Mike. Thank you. Great.
So, yeah, so once you've got the CSV, you can then adjust it to upload new software. You can eyeball it, whatever you need to do with the data. And at that point, that is that's the process. So it's designed to be very simple, easy for both you and your clients to use. So just to recap on what we can do. So there's multiple accounts available in a single report. So you just send one report and the client can connect as many accounts as they wish. And as you can see, it's pretty quick for them to connect more accounts. We cover about 98% of UK bank accounts. The two exceptions, which I think people will be familiar with because they present similar problems in accounting software, is Metro and Co-op. And we're hopeful by the end of the year, they will have developed the open banking enough for us to complete the coverage we can make. And we do both personal and business accounts, credit cards and PayPal, and we're adding new credit cards and payment types every week. So I think very shortly we're going live with Barclaycard Business, TransferWise and Amex. In addition to the other 40 odd providers we have already. The reports are delivered by a CSV and PDF. And the financial data is drawn directly from the bank accounts. So this doesn't require any scanning. This is just data drawn direct from the bank account, which you can then get on with the task. I was hoping, Simon, to sort of give you a preview of some of the new enhancements we're adding. Unfortunately, because of the COVID crisis and some of our developers are based in India, we've been rather impacted by that. And so as a result, we're maybe a month behind, but we will be delivering auto scheduling. What that means is if you wanted to do regular requests, you'd only have to enter them once and then the machine would remember and then just make those requests, for example, for a VAT return every quarter, monthly accounts once a month or annual, whatever you want. Report archiving and deleting. So if you've got on your admin panel the ability to archive reports and reorganize them. And then some enhancements to the CSV formats where we'll be able to add already the format, for example, to upload into Zero. So you won't have to do any manipulation of the data. You could just upload straight to Zero.
Brilliant, Mike. Thank you. So we've got some questions that have come in, and obviously we've got the pre-registration questions as well. And we also need to talk about investment and how you invest in the service and all the rest of it. But let me just fire through some of these questions, if I may. So Matthew said, when you downloaded that file, is it all in one list or on one page of the spreadsheet? And then Fahad's also added, so are all three statements in one report to upload to the software? We'll need to manually separate them. So on the CSV file that you had, just expand on that a little bit for us, can you please?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So at the moment, CSVs, you can't create new tabs. So at the moment, they are correct that you've got all the accounts in one sheet, and you would have to separate them. We're trying to figure out a way to be able to separate, but at the moment, yes, they would have to manipulate the data so that they could upload each account as separate sheets.
Okay, so when it comes through on the CSV, how do I identify which account that particular line has come from? Is the account number shown on there?
Yes, it is. So if you look through it, so I've done CHT properties to make it clear, and you've got the account number here on column H and I. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
And then as it changes, there might be a few lines here, but as it changes, then you can see it's changed to account 40.
Yeah.
So you'll have to just quickly scan through that to see where the account number changes.
But it always brings them in order like that, basically. So it's just a question of if you've got three accounts, you just delete the two accounts that you're not importing or cut and paste them onto a separate tab yourself. So it's not a laborious task, is what you haven't got to go through and sort all the transactions into the right order and all the rest of it. So
no, we made a decision early on not to make people's life and sort of commingle it by date or something horrendous. So no, it's just one list of transactions for one account followed by the list of transactions for the others in one sheet.
Thank you. And then Sinead asked, what about Ulster Bank, Danks Bank, if I'm pronouncing that right, and Bank of Ireland? Can you connect to those?
Northern Ireland, we can. So it'll depend where you are. So there's some, because of Brexit, and I'm not no political views here, but because of Brexit, our license is to connect to UK accounts. So with regards to their accounts in Northern Ireland, yes, we can connect it. We've just actually onboarded a client who has almost entirely Northern Irish accounts. So we're just going through the integration with them, but they are available today. What we've learned is that the data integrity for some of those accounts isn't what we expected, but we're hopeful in the next week or two it will be up and running for this Northern Irish account. And if it's useful, I can come back to her with where we're at on it. But they are available. Open banking does exist. We just got to do a bit of work on how they present the data to us and how we reorganize it to make it look like a bank statement.
Excellent, thank you. And then Tracy's asked, when you first add a client, do you need to know all of the accounts he has and tell Armalytix, or does it find all of the accounts based on the client's details?
Yeah, so at the moment, so what it will do is based on the client choosing the accounts they want to connect. So as long as you have the name, email of the client, and they choose to connect the accounts they want for your return, then you don't need to prescribe up front what accounts they connect. It does rely on the client knowing what data you want, though. So in this circumstance, I would suggest you would send an email ahead saying you're about to get a report. Can you make sure you connect all your accounts related to XYZ Corporation or whatever it might be?
Yeah. So if I got a request from my account, and I'd know that I'd got to do the limited company accounts for argument's sake, and if I had a rental property, the rental property account. So on that first setup, that there's a potential challenge in there. But am I right in saying, Mike, that once you've done that the first time, it remembers? So the second time and the third time, I'll just go in and I might have to go through the ID checks, but it remembers what accounts and then sends that information back. So
it'll depend. At the moment, that is in development. So at the moment, the client has to choose the account, but absolutely the returning journey, the intention will be that we will be able to know it. I think, as you know, Simon, we're a relatively young company. We've had a great uptake. We still need to finesse it to get to that endpoint, and that will be coming.
Brilliant. So effectively at a point in the not too distant future, once it's set up and you can set up the automatic reminders, effectively all the customers, as long as they don't change their bank accounts, all the customers are going to have to do is basically look at the camera, face ID it, and then the system will flow through and do the rest. Is that?
Yeah. So the only aspect is open banking requires this sort of 3-month re-authentication. So there's a lot of exciting developments in that space which haven't yet been turned to law, and they're still consulting it. But there may be some changes so that this 3-month authentication becomes a lot easier for clients, which means it's not so painful to reconnect accounts each 3 months. And that will be really exciting for the whole industry if those changes were to go through.
Okay, so I've perhaps misunderstood then. So once it's set up, once Armalytix is set up the first time, they don't have to authorize it. They only basically have to authorize it every 3 months, the same as what they do with open banking.
Well, actually, on each journey, they have to re-authenticate.
Okay.
And the reason why we do that, there's a technical reason. For the highest quality of data, you need to re-authenticate, and then we get the highest quality of data back. Okay.
And just that leads on to Tony's question. And Tony's asked, can the clients change the data provided in any way? So can they produce the report and then intercept it and manipulate the data?
No. And on our early research into accounting, they were keen that clients just returned the data you asked and can't change it. So the data will only be the data you requested. They can't interfere with that.
Excellent. Thank you. So before we go on, I've got a few more questions just to tie up around Xero and the way it works potentially with Dexter and those sort of things. Can you just share with us, Mike, what the investment in the service is, and when people would like to take it further with you and find out more, what the best mechanism is for them to do that?
Yeah, I've got some bit of work. So in terms of how they would get started with us, it's really simple. It's a login to a web-based system. So you can deploy it in a day. And the only information we need for people who want to get going is their logo, the message they want on the splash screen, and the names and emails of their staff who will be sending out these requests so that we can give them a login. And then we'll organize training for them, which is usually a 45-minute session. Plus they'll get a bunch of information to not only for their own staff, but also to share with their customers ahead of sending these reports out for the first time. There is more deeper integrated service, which we are actually in various degrees of development with software, case management firms, accounting software firms, where they're sort of integration via the API. For the purposes of accounting practice who wants to get going, then it's very simple. And we can get them going, in a day. Would it be helpful if I touched on the sort of the cost of the service and how that would?
Yes, please.
For the Accountants Mastermind, we're going to put in front of you a deal, but in terms of our normal packages, they start from around £50 a month. And what I was intending to do is I'll go on to how the charging structure works, because it's slightly different from how scanning technology would work. So I'll go into the second. But in terms of the deal for Accountants Mastermind, you get the first month free, and plus we've got a new pricing package which includes the ability for you to roll over reports you haven't used into following months. And I'll come into the detail of that. And we're going to offer that out to the Mastermind viewers. And then in terms of how you get hold of us, then if you can just email sales@armalytix.com and quote "socks up Simon," then one of our sales team will get back to you to give you more information of the product and hopefully get you set up and going. In terms of the costs, I thought it might be helpful just to explain it a bit, because it is different from scanning, which is sort of a per page thing. So if I just go to sort of the middle plan, which is the corporate plan, if you pay £100 a month, you get 25 bank reports a month. Now, historically, it was sort of use it or lose it. But now what we wanted to introduce to the Mastermind clients was the ability to roll over reports. So what we're learning from accountants is whether it's the compliance work you're doing, it isn't linear. You don't do the same amount every month. So what we're offering the ability is for people to roll over up to, in this case, 50 reports into subsequent months, rather than use it or lose it. And within those reports, just to say, you get charged per report, not number of accounts. So if someone connects multiple accounts, you don't get charged for each additional account. You just get charged per report. In terms of if you go over the amount you bought in your subscription, then the prices are charged on the maturity of the statements you're looking for. So up to 60 days, it's £2 in the corporate plan, £4 up to 300 days, and £6 for 300 days or more. So if you had a 2-year bank report request and the client's connected 10 accounts for returning 2 years of bank statements on those 10 accounts, you would only pay £6 for the whole report. So any questions on the reporting?
Just so I get clarity, Mike. Basically, a report is a single request to a customer requesting information on their bank. Is that correct? Yeah. So if I had a team member that emailed the same client, and on Tuesday, they sent an email to the customer requesting a bank report on their Barclays account. And then on Thursday, they went to do the job and realized they'd forgotten to do a NatWest account, and they'd got to ask for the NatWest ones. That would be 2 reports for the same customer. Is that right?
That's correct. Now, what you would suggest is next time, just send 1 report and ask for both.
That's right. Yeah, you slap the team. Sorry, you can't slap team members anymore. That's not allowed. But you have a polite conversation with a team member and make sure that all of the information goes at once. And ultimately, once it's set up, it becomes a reoccurring process anyway. So it shouldn't. Well, it's going to become a reoccurring process. So it shouldn't happen anyway. Brilliant. Thank you. So that makes sense to me. I've got no further questions on the pricing, although I do have some questions that I'm going to run through in a minute. So brilliant. There are some other questions. So if anybody's here that's got any other questions, if you can post them in the Q&A box for me, please. Mark has put the URL to find out more about how it all works, and the email address, sales@armalytix.com. And as you say, if you quote socks up to Mike, then you'll get the first month's subscriptions for free. So whilst we see if there's any more questions coming through, Mike, let me just run down the questions that we already have in the system.
Yeah.
So Richard asked, could we use this to verify the bank feed data we have in Xero is complete and no transactions have been missed?
Yes, that's a very common use case.
Yeah. And as I was listening to it, that was one of the things where I was thinking, okay, whether I could use it as a bank reconciliation process. So if the client's messed up their Xero by deleting a transaction or whatever, if I import that data into Xero, it will tell me whether the transactions have been duplicated or not. And hopefully, fingers crossed, the one that's not been duplicated is the one that the one that's missing.
That's absolutely right.
Thank you. Ednan's asked, is there a minimum contract term? So are we signing up for 25 years or how does that work?
No, the maximum notice would be 60 days. The free trial can be cancelled at any moment, so no notice. And then if you move on to a subscription, it's a 60 days in total would be the max notice.
Thank you. Do you need to be linked to any accounting software? That was Tracy. So I think the answer to that is no.
No, but it's quite easy to upload to accounting software if you need to.
Thank you. And then just to confirm, Marie asked, does the CSV include the bank balance as it is the thing that delays our work getting bank statements for reconciling?
Yes.
Yeah, I had it on the right-hand side as we were looking at the screen. For people that don't like to use technology, aren't good at it, how would you go about getting their bank feeds? That was from Matthew. So I think it's a really simple way of asking for that information, and with a telephone call potentially and an explanation, I think is a really easy way for people that don't use technology to do that. But
yeah, it's interesting. We had one the other day where it was a hairdresser who had historically refused to do bank feeds or anything, and they got her on the phone. She was cutting someone's hair at the time, and they just said, "Keep clicking the red button until you finished," and she did it successfully. So Yeah, and what I would say, it's had really good feedback with people who have tradesman clients, because the last thing they want to do is go home and log in and send bank statements that way, and they can literally do it in the van if they want. And
Yeah,
so,
I think that the beauty of it is, as you say, is if, and I can think of clients that I've got where we ask for bank statements and then they've got to log in, they've got to export the data, they've got to save it on the hard drive somewhere, they've then got to add it to an email, then they've got to email it to you. And it's like, I know what customers think. They think, okay, well, next time I log in to pay somebody or look at something, I'll do it then. And what happens is they log in, they're busy and they forget about it. And then we chase them and it's okay. So next time I log in, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it then. So if it's there and all it is a question of tapping a few buttons on your telephone, then I can see how much simpler it would be for a customer to do it. I don't know whether you'll know the answer to this, but Shank has asked, is it different importing the bank feed into Xero or QuickBooks?
is the process different?
Yeah.
What I can tell you is the format of the file they require for the upload is slightly different. But actually the technicalities of the upload process, I'm going to say, Simon, you're probably more qualified than me to answer that. But
yeah, you did. I don't. I've not. Well, I do use Xero on my own books, but I don't. I get told off for going in there and messing about with it. But anyway, that's another story. From what you were saying earlier, is you're going to design specific reports for specific pieces of software. So if you're going to import into Xero, then the CSV, when it comes back, will ask for the information for Xero. Is that right? Did I misinterpret that?
no, you're right. So it's actually a formatting question for the CSV, which is Xero takes a specific type of format, which includes far less information, actually. I think it's literally debits, credits, description, date, pretty much. And QuickBooks has a slightly different format from that as well, marginally. So what we'll be able to do is, and for those people who are familiar, I think it's with Dex, you've got an option to say, right, do you want a CSV upload in the format of Xero or QuickBooks or general? So you'll have those sort of options, and that will be coming very shortly.
Thank you. And then Sarah's asked, how is this beneficial over a normal bank feed in Xero?
It seems such a simple question, and it's going to come back with a complicated answer. So bear with me. So with the bank streaming of data, banks aren't good at people streaming data. Now, Xero have done an amazing job of trying to clean that up. But what happens is you've got confusion between pending and booked. And so part of the reasons that some of the bank feeds can go out of sync, maybe get dupes or maybe miss transactions, is how they're streaming it, because they're streaming it at the point of it being booked in the bank system. What we do on the bank feed is we're only looking backwards. And so what happens with open banking is if you get permission at that point when you're going to share the data, we get the highest quality data back. Plus, we're always looking at booked data, so nothing pending. So as a result, the data quality is much higher than if you're streaming. And so that's the major difference between the two, which is why you can use our system for a bank rec. Whereas streaming, it's no one's fault. I don't even blame the banks, if I'm honest. It's because you're streaming at the point of it being booked, you can get these dupes and missings.
Yeah, and for me, the pain that is reconnecting the bank account every 3 months, it seems simpler the way that you're doing it to work through. And from an accountancy perspective, I think if you've got a bank feed that works into Xero, you wouldn't upset that bank if the customer's doing it and it's work. You wouldn't upset that. This is for specific situations where you want to check the bank statement, the bank balance is actually correct, or you've got somebody that is a pain in the backside and can't reconnect the Xero, or they can't give you the bank statement data, or they don't use Xero for their rental accounts, for example. There's a whole host of reasons as to why you want the bank statements and the CSV. I can think of a situation where we still get bank statements from a customer and then they go off and they get recreated into CSV via one of the providers that do that then doesn't work properly, and away it goes. So I don't think it's a replacement, and forgive me if I'm putting words in your mouth, Mike, but I don't think it's a replacement for a successfully working bank feed into Xero or QuickBooks. It's an addition into that, basically.
Bang on. I've never been saying disconnect your bank feeds and only use Armalytix. That's not what I'm saying. It's a complement to those tools and that helpfully saves you time in those circumstances where you need a bank statement.
Yeah. So, and Manef's just confirmed that. It says, it seems I could eliminate auto entry with PDF extraction, which is one of the things that we do at the moment. So if we had this, we wouldn't need the PDF extraction, would we?
No, exactly. And because of this per sheet thing, you know, on the surface, it can look quite reasonable price, but actually when you're dealing with a 100-page bank statement or a 1,000-page bank statement, it can quickly get quite expensive. Plus you have to wait around a bit. And I'm not saying it's amazing technology, what they've got, but I'm saying, if you can get the CSV direct from the bank, hopefully you don't need to do any scanning.
Thank you. I've got one more question from Tracy in the Q&A box, but before I get to that, just a reminder that the contact details for Mike are in the chat box. So if you want to find out more, there's a URL there that Mark's put in there, and you can also email Mike at sales@analytics.com to begin your trial. So a question from Tracy. Can you show us the CSV again, please,
Oh, yeah.
Mike? Because Tracy would just like to know, are the descriptions of the transactions in there? And does it come with supplier names and customer names?
Let me just let me just expand the description screen. So we're looking at column K. You can see that. Is that coming through right, Simon?
Yep, I can see that. Yep.
So this is a rental business, as you can probably see. So we get the descriptions on the transactions as per the description field the bank will give us. So I don't know if you can see on column K the level of description.
Yeah, whatever you've just shown Tracy says yes, good. So it's worse. So
okay, is that it? I just want to check I understood Tracy's question. So we get the full description the bank would, and as you can see, it's pretty good.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. So I have been through all of the questions. I'll just make sure that's disappeared, and that's disappeared. Is there anything else, Mike, that you would like to share before we say thank you and disappear?
Other than say thank you, Simon. It's great to be able to showcase the technology, and thanks for all the Mastermind people who participated. Really enjoyed it.
And thank you for being so generous with your time, and for the discount as well for the community, for those people that would like to join up. So thank you, Mike, for coming along. And also thank you, as always, to the members of the community that have come along and asked questions, because I always say, as much as I'm an accountant and I can ask questions, I have blind spots. So as the members ask those questions, we get a more rounded picture, and it's why these conversations are unique in that you get lots of people having conversations and asking questions, rather than your own specific viewpoint. And sometimes it fires off different things. So thank you very much for that. So thank you again, Mike, for coming along. And as I've said previously, if you need to find anything more from Mike, then the URL is in the chat box, and you can also email Mike on sales@analytics.com, and Mike will get you set up in a jiffy, so to speak. So thank you very much, Mike, and we will see you all again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching this video with Mike Ward from Armalytix. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please post them down below the video and we will gladly answer them. Please remember to like the video and also subscribe to the channel so you get notified the next time we upload a video to help inspire, challenge, and support you to run a better accountancy practice. Below me down at the bottom here somewhere, you will see our suggestions for the next video for you to watch.